Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of SRE 101, a podcast about all things infrastructure and reliability. Our guest on the show today is a dear friend of mine, Garima Damani. Garima and I go back to our days at Coinbase when we were fellow SREs building Coinbase cryptocurrency infrastructure together. She's presently a site reliability engineer at Microsoft. Garima, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Raghav, for inviting me as your first guest. I am glad that you thought about me when you thought of starting this podcast. So, yeah, uh, very, very happy to connect with you again.
Awesome. So let's get this party started.
Sure.
So why don't we start with some introductions, Karima? Tell us a bit about yourself and what does an SRE do at Microsoft?
Sure. So, as an SRE with around 8 years of experience in this field, mostly my expertise lies in CI/CD, build times, automations, upgrades, migrations, or setting up the new environments. It could be stage or productions. So that's what I have gained experience, and that's what kind of related works is what you get. And sometimes you even work on building new tools for
Mhm.
developers, which could be like if they do not have the access to production, getting them the things out of there, or in whichever way you can solve the reliability and scalability issues. So that's what mostly the job or experience I have got as of now. And uh, and being a SRE is, it's a very high learning curve. All the time you are so many times thrown into situations where you don't know how these things work, and you got to
Mhm.
learn every day and overcome that obstacle of that I don't know this, how does
You
this
have to
work.
navigate through new layers of software every
Yeah,
day. It's
yeah,
no day is the same ever.
yes, yes, true, true. So that's what is challenging, and that's what I love about this field, because every day you don't get the same set of challenges. Every day your on call is not the same. There are
Mhm.
lots of unknowns, tasks and projects that you get, right? So that is what keeps me motivated being in this field, and that is what pushes me to go that extra mile and come out of my comfort zone to try to solve a new problem every day, because I don't get bored. If you're bored in a
You never
like,
get bored with SRE.
just take an on call.
Exactly. You'll never get bored again for life. In fact, you
Yeah,
would want to be bored for like at least a day.
yes, true, true. So that's how the things have been, and because I enjoy learning things, I do even like to share my learnings. So that's why I have this Medium blog where I like to publish the learnings that I have, or publish
Mhm.
my blogs, so I can note down the experiences learning, so that others can also learn from that. So you can have a look at that Medium blog. And
Definitely.
apart
I think we should share that along with the podcast itself.
thank you so much. And when I'm not working, I like to explore nature, go around, go for a walk, or tune into my favorite tunes.
Even when
uh,
you're on call?
uh, yeah, sometimes if you get lucky, I have to check my phone twice if phone is working, or if I have network or not. Why my phone is so silent? Not yeah, so that's about me.
Well, uh, so one thing that's interesting to me is there's no formal training or education for an SRE, Garima. Like there's no defined path, like kind of like there is in software engineering, right? And so everyone who is an SRE today, they've had a unique journey, to get to it. It's full of hidden trials. So can you tell us a bit about your journey? Like how did you become an SRE?
Sure, and I completely agree with you, Raghav, on that. There is no formal training of being an SRE, that you follow the steps or do this and you will become an SRE, right? So I started my career as an iOS developer uh, back, in 2016. Uh, it was for a healthcare product company. And when I started looking for my next opportunity, I ended up giving an interview for a DevOps role,
Hmm.
when I had seriously no clue about AWS, cloud infrastructure stuff, on calls, nothing. So they selected me. I cleared the interview based on my coding skills, and once I got onboarded is where my whole journey started, seeing from the AWS portal for the first time, what is on call. Those used to be my questions: what is Docker, how does the portal look like, and all those kind of stuff. And but I was lucky enough to have seniors or leaders who were there patiently to help me out understanding how things goes. And the funniest part that happened with me was, once I
Hmm.
finished my task, was like, given to write the monitoring alerting for HA proxy. I wrote that, I deployed to stage, and I sat there. And then once they had outage, and they were like, we had done this task, why we didn't get alerted? And it comes down to me. I was like, I did finish my task. They are like, the task is not over until it's not running in production.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think that's a fair definition. It should be running in production, or you're not exactly doing your task.
Yeah, exactly, right? So that's how I learned it. But the whole thing, when I went into this field and when I got this opportunity, the one thing I always kept was learning. Every
Hmm.
day is different. You have to be open to learning. If you say that I want to do the same thing, or if I'm not open to learning or new challenges, and if you think of giving up on day one, day two, then you cannot survive,
It's not
because you
gonna cut for you. Yeah.
say, yeah, yeah, right. So you cannot say that I know Java. Developers can write the code in any language: Java, Python, Go. And might be in one company they write in Java. What if you go to other company, they write in Python, they write in C++? So
Hmm.
as an SRE, you are not going to code what they are doing, but you will, might be like, during on call, you will have to look at it. You should know how those builds happen, right? So that's how my journey started. And I realized that this is what my passion is, and this is what I'm looking forward to, and this is what gives me happiness uh,
And
every day.
so like the interesting thing to me here is also that it takes two sides. Like, it takes a curious mind, right? You want to be somebody who wants to jump into this field. And what I understood is that even your company, your employer, was ready to, like, support you in this. They understood that, okay, you don't come from experience of understanding the cloud and infrastructure already, but you have the mindset, you have the right mindset, you have the, the software engineering skills, the foundational material. And so they were willing to bet on you. uh,
Yes,
that's very interesting to me, because uh, I see that even employers have started to recognize the fact that, SRE is not born, right? It's not a
yeah,
profession that you just come up with, right? You have to give people the space to train their minds to actually get into the SRE mindset.
yes, yes, I agree with you. It's all about the culture, the right culture, having that mindset in the company. When you have the right set of leaders, you have the right set of seniors, is when they see that this person is ready to learn
Hmm.
and has that capacity, that no matter what challenge comes, mistakes are
Yeah,
there, everybody learns. But if you're open to learning, that's where I think even company can think of betting on you.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm curious, in your years of practice as a reliability engineer, what's the scariest production incident you've ever dealt with?
Oh yeah, so this
Yeah,
one
your
is,
smile tells me a lot.
yeah, yeah. Because this one is a funny one, but I cannot be held completely accountable for this,
Hmm.
but still I was the one who caused it. It's the both the sides.
Now I'm more interested.
Yes. So the thing was, in every org, if you see, there is this cost optimization projects that goes on, right? So
Hmm.
this task was given to me as a part of cost optimization project, and I was expected to delete the resources in production which were not being used to save the cost, which was a fair ask. It was not at all something out of the box, right?
Hmm.
So I digged in, I found some resources, and I did send out the mail to all the teams informing them that there is a 2 weeks time post, once we after 2 weeks I'm going to delete these many resources which are listed down. These are the security
Right.
groups, these are the resources name, right? I send out to a bunch of people, around 100 people or so, not just 2 3 people or just the leaders. Okay. And nobody replied. So after a week I did a follow up. As expected, I
Okay,
did a follow.
I'm starting to see where this is going.
Yes. So I did follow up. Nobody replied, and people said, "Yes, it's go ahead and delete them." So the basic rule that we follow whenever you're trying to delete anything, whether stage or production, is you go and see the monitoring dashboards, whether it is receiving some traffics or whether if it is a load
Yep.
balancer, there are instances behind or not.
Hmm.
I did the same. I followed the procedure, informed people, checked the load balancer. If there are instances, no instances, green tick. Checked if there was traffic, no traffic. Go ahead. Okay. And then I took that hard decision in the important one. I went ahead and deleted the resources in production. After half an hour, I see a bunch of people coming around and they are like, there is an outage. Our services are not starting up, microservices. And I just chilled. I was like, I did not do anything. And I
Woo!
did reply to people on email saying that this activity is completed successfully.
Task failed successfully. Yep. Yep.
Yes.
I've heard that one.
And after an hour, people realize who deleted this load balancer. And they check a mail where clearly it states which is the load balancer I'm going to delete. And now, once you know what is the issue, so it does not matter who did this. The most
Mhm.
important thing is how do we fix this? Because
The
nobody does.
blameless culture. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
this culture, right? So we all got on board, and I did report that this is the situation. Why did I do this? How did I do this? And what are the things? Now, how the most important question that everybody was, how do we fix it, and what is the impact? So best part was we had all our dashboards set where we could see how many microservices are getting restarted again and again, and which
Hmm.
are those which are not able to come up because of this issue. So we had all this handy, and then we saw the logs. So what was happening was this load balancer, even though did not have any instances, was not serving the traffic. The main cause was in config file we had set hard coded that for this load balancer you go and see if it exists. That's it. And then go ahead and you start the microservice on
Hmm.
any of the instances. So it was not getting the config services from there. Config, it was not getting any configs for that microservices. That was
Right.
the old way of getting the configs, which was discarded, depreciated. Okay. So microservice did not need this, but this one check was stopping the microservice from coming up.
Hmm.
Now, the immediate fix anybody could think was raise a new LB with the same name and replace them. But that did not help because whenever you try to raise a new resource with the same name, it will even have a unique ID attached to it in AWS, right? So this does not solve our problem. So we had to go hard way, go to those many services, change this right now and put the new LB so that they could come up. But impact was huge. uh, Things were down, customers were definitely impacted. Lesson learned here was from that day never have hard coded values. Okay. And whenever you are doing the project of depreciating something, make sure you go to the various repos in GitHub or GitLab, wherever you're using, search with those names, because that is where it will show you in all the projects that has been used. And you should send out the email or inform people, which was already done, right? So this was the learning. And after that, we had the action item where we went ahead and removed this. That was for the later part, right? First the thing was to fix it. So later, yes, all the services owners did go behind and updated their microservices, and things were back to normal.
Well, I myself am guilty of hard coding a lot of configurations, so I totally feel that. I would like to invoke the blameless culture here. I want you to know that as an SRE, even I will never blame you.
Yes, true, true. That's the best part of the culture that the company should follow, because it's not that somebody does anything on purpose. It's that keep that blame aside and focus on what is the problem in hand and try to fix it as a team rather than
Exactly.
blame that person.
Yep, yep. And next time we need to find better ways than email to inform about all these changes in the infrastructure. So this reminds me of the good old days when I used to start fires of my own. I still do sometimes, but they're more sophisticated in nature now. Couple of years ago, I was working at this company. It was a Series B startup, like around 100 employees, some 20 microservices we were running. We had a main MySQL database cluster in production, right?
Okay.
That was the backbone of the entire product. It was in AWS RDS. It had a single master node that handled all the writes and no reads. And then we had a couple of replica reader nodes that handled all the reads, right?
Hmm.
Everything was going perfectly. So this one day, the analytics team approached me because they wanted to read data from the production database because they wanted to generate some business insights for the management, right? I think
Okay.
every company has this kind of analytics team, so it was all normal. I had dealt with that before. But this use case wasn't so big that I go ahead and create a data warehouse just for them. So it wasn't really worth it. So what I decided was I simply created a new endpoint in the RDS database
Hmm.
that just points to the read replicas, right? And shared this endpoint with the analytics team.
Hmm.
The
Makes sense.
credentials I gave them was also read-only permissions, right? So the idea was that the credentials are read-only, and the endpoint that I gave, RDS has this feature where you can give the endpoint of pointing just to the read replica, so that the maximum you can do is just read data, right? You can never write or modify anything in that database cluster. And so that gave me a lot of peace of mind. I was happy that okay, yeah, I've done plenty, and everything went back to normal for a couple of weeks. And this was the calm before the storm, right?
Definitely.
One fine day, somebody decides to run a lot of heavy SQL queries from their analytics notebooks all at
Okay.
once, right? So now
Okay.
the thing is, here's the situation. Like, even though it's all read queries, but there's plenty of heavy queries all at once, they just hogged all the memory on all the read replicas. Okay.
Definitely.
And, and since the writer that we had never handled any read requests, this meant that the real read requests that were coming from our production applications from real customers, these read requests no longer were being handled because all the memory was hogged by analytics.
Okay.
Right? So imagine your complete product, your complete revenue stream, that entire product is not able to read any data from the production database anymore, and we don't have any layer of caching in between like Redis or something. So
Oh, okay.
basically no data is being served at all. Okay,
Wow.
just imagine everything just came down crashing. All customers, 100% of the customer base is being impacted right now, because
Oh
like
my
it's like
God.
an 80-20 rule. 80% of our requests were essentially reads, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
True.
so to make things worse, I wasn't even able to connect to these readers to manually kill these
Oh,
queries because that's how hogged the memory was. So we ended up blocking the entire analytics infrastructure from the database at a firewall level. We said stop all the connections, okay? And of course we had to kill the existing readers, come up with new readers and let them sync all the data with the writer, right? So that all of them are up to date. And this whole recovery process took like 2 hours. By then we had already lost, I don't know, like 100K in revenue, something around that. And so
that's
this
really
wasn't yeah, yeah, I mean that's what, like, we lost a good like money, and it took a good time to recover, and a lot of people had that, right? Somehow, like, like, if I reflect on it today, like, this wasn't anybody else's fault, nobody in analytics. This was purely like my own negligence, I would say, because I was so focused on just giving read only access from a security point of view so that nothing gets modified, that I just forgot to think about the fact that, hey, these people also generate load on your database. So you should not be giving direct access to your read replicas.
true. True. I agree. And
So
I'm sure after this incident, everybody must have knew about this incident, right? It must have been
everyone,
said, you know.
right from the janitor at the company all the way till the CEO, everybody knew about this incident, right? And then we
100%.
had a and then we had like marketing department asking us, what is going on, guys? Like, I just sent a lot of leads and nobody's able to come to our website. What's happening? I'm like, yeah, let's invoke the blameless culture again here, okay? So
True,
yes,
true.
that was
But
my
but
learning. Hmm.
but I would say, because we are promoting blameless does not mean that you should execute or do anything. That blame will not come to you. They should be
Yes,
mindful of what they are doing.
yes.
That
And regardless
ownership
of the
responsibility should be there. That should be
ownership
there.
should be there, everything should still be documented, like that we did
Yes.
it and we should never be doing it again, and how to put
True.
safeguards in it.
True. True. I
Now,
agree.
so Garima, a big part of being an SRE is automation, right? Google
Yes.
defines an SRE as a software engineer who's tasked to run an operations team. You're supposed to automate yourself out of the job, right?
True.
So, what has your experience been like with this regard? Like, do you have a great automation story for us?
Oh, yes. SREs, I think if you're working with production, you will definitely always have good stories to share. How somebody else bring that down, or how did you solve the problems? Okay, it's not that always we burn the things, but we definitely build a lot. Okay, and we are supposed to learn from the others are burning or you are burning. You're supposed to learn, right? So I did learn about automation, how much important automation is, and where manual things should not be touched. Manual human intervention is not required. You should not do it, and you should avoid it as much as possible. But this I learned it hard way. So one fine day, I got an alert. I was on call and I got an alert saying disk space full, which is a very common alert, which you
Ah,
can get anywhere, anytime,
the,
from any
yep.
places. So now I had a fair enough basic architecture and infra knowledge at that point of time, and I got this alert about disk space is full. I went ahead, uh, did SSH into that machine, production machine, and it was a Jenkins slave. So I saw that uh, most of the memory was being taken by the disk space was taken by .m2 cache, right? So
Hmm.
the basic thing I did was went ahead and deleted that. But before that, I did a research that m2 caches which gets built up. Okay. As
Good
you
job.
as you build things, so .m2 caches will pull those artifacts, all the dependencies for you from internet, right? But the catch was, this is if you're doing locally, if you're using everything that is reliable on the public, right? If you're using few of the artifacts or binaries or anything packages that are in-house,
Hmm.
it won't allow you, right? So the thing what happened was, after I did this, within 5 minutes, all the bills stopped working. Nobody in the org could build anything. Okay, because
I'm a software engineer just sitting there. Why is my build failing? Like my code is perfect. I just changed like one small variable name. That's all.
yes, exactly, and the bill fails. And because of this, we had around at that time 800 bills happening per day. Okay, so 800 bills equal to those many engineers doing and sitting nothing, because they are like, build is not happening, what can we do? It's the
Yep.
release engineer, right? So people come to me, and this, because every build was failing, it was not just the engineers along with the managers, and at some point it was even the VP who comes to me, and what has happened now, what is the status? Then I realized that I was not supposed to do this. Luckily I had my senior who directed me that you're not supposed to delete this, because few of the parent XML POM files and all those things are coming from our in-house things, and few of the Android build has some dependencies which are again coming in-house. So even though you deleted full, but this folder is not supposed to be deleted. Lesson learned. And the thing was, we had a snapshot, so we tried to bring that another instance up with this snapshot, but definitely it would take time as it was in GBs, right? So it took good 2 hours to bring up, and this made me famous. Like, people knew whom to approach for the status, whom to mail or Slack when it is going to be up, and how much time it is going to take. So that's how the things where I learned it, that never go and manually delete anything, or human interaction was not required. So I went ahead and used Textrom tool, automated. When I get such alerts, I redirect them to Textrom, which in turns logs into those systems and executes the scripts on behalf of me, like deleting rest of the stuff but not that particular folder or anything else, right?
Hmm.
So this is how I learned my lesson the very hard way, and realized that how we should do the things in a better way, in a right way, and how we should avoid the human intervention wherever we can, and automate. Definitely we can't automate everything, but we should try to automate whatever we can to avoid the human mistakes.
Exactly. Agreed. Totally agreed. And I think we should also get a tattoo saying "protect the M2 directory at all costs." Like get a tattoo on our hand, like, and just follow it all the way.
True, true. And even I made sure that document had do not delete the full .m2 repository in bold as a heading in red colors. I made sure that the document is updated. Now, every time I do any of this such things, I make sure the document is up to date, take that extra effort, and make sure everything is documented, no matter whatever it is. And when things are like caution, important, highlight them, because that
Exactly.
is
I can.
very trivial knowledge that we should pass on to our colleagues.
Yep. I can feel the battle scars in there. So, I also have a fun question for you.
Okay.
Um, if I walk into your room, Garima, right now, whose pictures am I going to see hanging on your walls? Like, who do you idolize the most in the industry? Like, we all have somebody like this person is such a badass. This is who I want to be when I grow up, right? And technically, like, we all never grow up, is what I believe. So, who's that idol for you?
So you won't find the picture definitely. In my room, the person whom I idolize in this industry. So one of the person that I idolize a lot in general is Michelle Obama. But in this field, I think the known name is Charity Majors. If anybody has not heard about her, go ahead, Google it, and you will know the reason why do I idolize her. But I would like to share why. She's a well-known figure when it comes to SRE field and software engineering, and she's a very prominent advocate for reliability. And she has also made very significant contribution in the tech industry.
Hmm.
She's a co-founder of Honeycomb. Their company is into observability tools that make software engineers' life easy, and SREs. Her major experiences are in building and scaling the large scale distributed system. So I just stumbled upon her profile on LinkedIn. I was just trying to see who are the famous people, or what does that person has achieved in the field of SI. Who are those known people? So I
Yep.
stumbled upon her profile. I found it, and the best blog that I read about her that she has written is Friday deployments. Why?
Friday deployments.
Yes,
Okay.
why deploy on Fridays? So that was which made me curious and go ahead and read that blog. And it's all about trusting. That means that you don't trust your systems, your pipelines enough, that you are thinking that I should not do it right now, and you wait for maybe Monday or a week, or maybe it is Christmas or some holidays, then you say I'll do it after that. And
Mhm.
that is not when your memory is fresh. When you do something and you do the deployments at that very moment or in the same day, you have that fresh memory of the changes that I have done, and you are in a very better shape to in detail know that these are the changes I've done, and you can roll back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I am learning from her blogs and the book that she has written. So she's one of the person I would like to be like, when it comes to tech, definitely. So, knowing your systems, what I really admire about her is she having that confidence because she knows her systems, how they will work. You have confidence on your system. That comes from lot of learnings and experiences, right? So I think that is something, and it always motivates me to go ahead, take that extra chance, learn from them, your mistakes, and then polish yourself.
Wow, that's yeah. And I'm definitely very interested in the Friday deployments. So I'm gonna go check that out as well.
Sure, sure.
All right then. With that said, I think it's time for us to wrap up. Garima, thank you so much for joining me on this episode and for sharing your stories with the world.
Thank you so Raghav for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts, my learning experience with the world and the technical fellow people that we have. And looking forward to your next podcasts.
Yep. All done in a blameless manner.
True.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.